Beijing has warned the new U.S. administration to stay out of the territorial dispute in the South China Sea. It's what's seen as a rare move. A senior Chinese foreign ministry official spoke to the U.S. media to deliver Beijing's message to Donald Trump.
There might be different or controversial claims over the sovereignty over those islands, but that's not for the United States.
A strong message there from China issued to the new U.S. president. While Donald Trump himself is known for his hostile approach towards China, however, as Emily Sue reports, the previous administration has already done a lot to worsen the relations between Washington and Beijing.
Taking on China was one of Trump's big election promises, and the mainstream media don't like it one bit. They say he's ruining decades of hard work.
Donald Trump did something that no U.S. leader has done since 1979.
So we have the President of the United States with the strongest anti-China rhetoric, if you will.
Trump's victory, arguably bad news for U.S.-China relations.
But hold on a sec, were things really as rosy as claimed?
If we don't write the rules for trade around the world, guess what? China will.
China continues cyber espionage against the United States.
In 2011, we saw Barack Obama's pivot to Asia. The plan was to, quote, provide a balance to China's rising influence. Obama then made rosy relations rosier by ratcheting up America's military presence in the Asia-Pacific region to 368,000 troops in 2015. Last year, the U.S. sent Navy destroyers to conduct 4 military patrols right in China's backyard. And Obama had no intention of stopping there, vowing to move 60% of U.S. naval and overseas assets to the Pacific region.
The U.S. sent warships into Chinese waters close to reefs off the Nansha Islands, which severely violated our sovereignty and security and heightened tensions in the region. Which of us is the real rule breaker and troublemaker? I think the facts have spoken for themselves.
Washington's argument has been that its patrols are there to ensure Beijing doesn't limit the freedom of navigation in the region, which is a bit odd, as unlike China, the U.S. never ratified the UN convention that covers this. And don't forget, America has military ties with almost everyone in the region, effectively surrounding Beijing with pro-U.S. forces. Among them is Taiwan, which China sees as a breakaway province. Washington's ties with Taipei have long rattled Beijing, long before Donald Trump spoke with the Taiwanese president on the phone last month. The U.S. has been arming Taiwan since the 70s, and Obama alone sold $14 billion worth of weapons to Taipei. Also keeping things rosy were Obama's ties with the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader who Beijing accuses of helping a separatist movement in Tibet. Obama met him not once, but 4 times.
It would send a wrong signal to the Tibet independent separatists and hurt the China-US mutual trust and cooperation.
President Obama lacked a vision as to how China-US relations should be developed. He was very much focused on the day-to-day operations and ups and downs, hiccups between China and the United States, but he did not have a long-term vision about how China-US relations should be developed and how China and the United States should look at each other.
So, fair enough. If Trump keeps up his anti-China rhetoric, China-US ties will no doubt take a turn for the worse. But he definitely wasn't the one who started it all.
The rivalry is widely seen as a battle for global dominance. And while Trump is pledging to put America first, China has given hints it's not opposed to taking the lead as well.
From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
It's not China that's rushing to the front, but rather the front runners have stepped back, leaving the place to China. If China is required to play that leadership role, then China will assume its responsibilities.
Meanwhile, some media outlets are claiming it's already 1-0 to China, at least in terms of economic influence in the region. That's after Trump effectively killed off the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal.
TPP, or the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, was a proposed deal between the US and almost a dozen other states aimed at slashing tariffs and trade barriers. Then Donald Trump decided to pull the US out the deal. So, end of story for the massive free trade project? Well, TPP is not the only horse in the race. There's another global trade agreement brewing called RCEP, or the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. It actually includes all of America's former TPP partners in the Asia-Pacific region, plus 8 more states, and probably most importantly, China, Washington's #1 economic rival, but not America. And with the US now out of the region's trade deal game, well, chances are shaping up quite nicely for Beijing.
Earlier, we discussed the future prospects for US-China relations with Wall Street investment analyst and author Charles Ortle.
Yes, in theory, countries closer to China may decide that it's wiser to forge closer ties with China than it is to depend upon the American umbrella in the Pacific region. But I also think and know many of these business people around the world, they're going to embrace what's going on because Trump is changing, resizing, rewriting the calculation that you make as an investor about where to put your money. It's much smarter to have wealth in this country than it ever was before. In China, we actually have a lot more areas of potential common ground than we do areas of stark underlying disagreement. So I would hope that what Trump is doing here is blustering and getting set to do his masterful negotiating, something that he's very skilled at doing.
All right, Shalom. It's your brother Kanakala coming back at you with this truth again. You know, GMS Tempa07, GMSRI. All right. I want to thank y'all Bashim Yahushai for giving me the spirit to do another video. All right. Spirit of prophecy. All right. And the video you saw was, you know, the war being prepared for with China, man. All right, because China is not exempt either from the judgment of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. All right. But the where I want to start at is that you see how Trump is he's meddling over there in the South China Sea. All right, it has absolutely nothing to do with him. All right, and the first scripture I want to get into is Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter. All right, because this ultimately is why the nations hate America and why America is gonna be destroyed. All right, because America is a very unrighteous kingdom. Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, you know, his hand is upon this kingdom. All right, he's going to destroy it. All right, this is Habakkuk chapter 2 verse and I'm gonna start at 5. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man. All right, let's talk about the so-called white man, the nation of Edom. All right, neither keepeth at home. Okay, so neither keepeth at home. All right, so what are you doing over there in the South China Sea, man? All right, you're gonna start a war with something has absolutely nothing to do with you. Regions in little sand mines over there, little artificial islands that have absolutely nothing to do with you. All right, so that pride is going to destroy you. All right, here's the point: who enlarges his desire as hell and as death. All right, because everywhere the so-called white man goes, he spreads death and hell. All right, he brings hell upon people, and his death and cannot be satisfied. He can't be satisfied. He went to all these other countries. He stole, North America, North Central South America from the indigenous people of the land. All right, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and he heapeth unto him all people. All right, he can't be satisfied. He just got to keep going and going and going. He wants to own and conquer every bit of land on the planet. All right, but him meddling over there with the South China Sea, in particular Donald Trump, that's going to get him destroyed. All right, but that brings this point in as well. Okay, because China is not exempt of the Lord's judgment, neither, because when so-called blacks came over here to America in cargo slave ships, and they were supplying the world with 80% of cotton, and pretty much supplying the world with all kind of free labor. All right, those Chinese, those Asians, which is known as MOAB in the scriptures, they're Moabites. All right, they did not come over to America and plead our cause. All right, they didn't come over here and say what you doing to those blacks and Hispanics and Native Americans are wrong. All right, they didn't say anything. They allowed it to happen. All right, so the Lord is going to, his judgment is upon MOAB too, which would be the Chinese today. His judgment is upon them as well. All right, this is Jeremiah chapter 40 verse 8. It says, "For thus saith the Lord, behold, he shall fly as an eagle and shall spread his wings over Moab." So Moab is going to get some after effects of this Third World War too. America is going to be ultimately destroyed, all right, because Babylon ought to be destroyed. But hey, for thus said the Lord, behold, he will spread his wings against Moab, all right. And it says, the city shall be taken. It's like a Keroth is taken, the strongholds are surprised, and the mighty men in the hearts in Moab at that day shall be as the heart of a woman in her pangs. All right. So the Most High is gonna touch the Moabites as well. All right, because they had a hand in the slavery of the so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans. All right, they didn't plead the cause. All right, this is Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 25. It says, "Pour out thy fury upon the heathen, all right, that know thee not, and upon the families that call not on thy name, for they have eaten up Jacob." And that's what every nation has done. So-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, they have eaten them up. All right, they're known as minorities. All right, they don't have no seat in the UN. You know, China has a military. All right, Russia has a military. America has a military. The Africans have a military, but the so-called blacks and Hispanics, the minorities, we don't have anything. All right. It says, "For they have eaten up Jacob," Jacob meaning Israel, all right, "and devoured him and consumed him, and have made his habitation desolate." All right, and we are people ruined. All right, all that the scriptures say, what nation has not taken of her spoils? All right. So with that being said, all right, this Third World War is being brewed up because the Lord's indignation is upon all the heathen. All right, so China is going to go into this Third World War. America's going to go into the Third World War. The Most High got you nations in a trick bag, man. He got you nations in a trick bag. He's finna utterly destroy all you nations in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the Valley of Decision. All right. You see all these things, all these nations being gathered up. Everybody's brewing up for war. And for you so-called white people that voted for Donald Trump, man, he's brewing this thing up, man. He's going to get you people consumed. But it's all through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. He's controlling this whole thing. All right, because the Lord say he is jealous for his people, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, and people of Negroid and Native American and Latino descent. All right, that's scattered throughout all four corners of the earth. Okay, so war with China is coming. World War III is at the doors. All right. With that, I'm gonna give all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Double honor to the elder apostles of the great millstone, and salutations to you sincere laborers out there pushing this truth in all sincerity and faith and honesty.